This show is part of One Place, a daily network of focused briefings across the stories people follow most.
Welcome to the program. We have a packed lineup today, covering everything from high-tech startups to global economic shifts. Let's get right into the headlines that are shaping our world this morning.
A startup pays people to film their household trash.
Average UK mortgage rates hit a new high point.
A restaurant chain grew from online poker winnings.
Juries find tech giants liable for addictive product designs.
Record numbers of Americans struggle with credit debt.
A major savings blunder leaves families seeking millions.
The U.S. military ramps up critical missile production.
A former Microsoft manager shares her long unemployment.
New census data reveals the fastest-growing U.S. cities.
Amazon tests Prime shipping on external retail websites.
First, the AI data market. Avi Patel is only 22 years old, but he has already built a startup valued at $150 million, called Cled AI. The premise is fascinating because it addresses a major ethical hurdle in the tech world: the fact that most AI models are trained on data scraped from the internet without permission or payment. Patel dropped out of college after just 2 weeks to pursue entrepreneurship, and after a failed music licensing venture, he realized there was a massive demand for ethical, high-quality training data. Now, his company pays everyday people to record simple videos, like taking out the trash or photographing potholes, and then sells that data to robotics and self-driving firms.
It is a clever pivot that turns mundane daily tasks into a revenue stream for users. While the app is available globally, it has seen significant traction in places like the Philippines, where an extra $20 to $40 a month can make a real difference. In a household budget, Cled AI recently raised $6.5 million, proving that investors are betting on this direct-to-consumer data model. By paying people for their specific voluntary contributions, Patel is trying to flip the script on the traditional data scraping model. It is not just about the money. It is about providing the highly specific, real-world visual data that robotics companies need to train their machines for complex physical environments.
Now to the UK economy. The UK's cost of living squeeze is intensifying, as average mortgage rates have climbed to 5.5%, the highest level since August of last year. This surge is largely driven by global instability, specifically the conflict involving Iran, which has sent inflationary ripples through the markets. Lenders are quickly repricing their products as the hope for interest rate cuts this year begins to fade. For a typical borrower with a £250,000 loan, this shift adds over £1,000 to their annual costs. It is a significant blow to households that were already struggling with high prices, and experts warn that if market volatility continues, we could see rates stabilize even higher, perhaps near 6%.
What is particularly unusual right now is the inversion of mortgage rates. Typically, a 5-year fixed rate is more expensive than a 2-year one because of the longer commitment, but we are seeing the 2-year average overtake the 5-year product. This suggests that lenders expect short-term volatility to remain high. Beyond housing, the broader economic outlook is also under pressure. Research institutes are warning that a prolonged conflict in the Middle East could bring economic growth in major European hubs like Germany to a near standstill. With consumer confidence already fragile, these rising borrowing costs and energy price concerns are creating a very challenging environment for both homeowners and the wider business community as they look toward the rest of the year.
Next, a gambling success story. Tom Armenti has a classic entrepreneurial story with a very modern twist. He started his restaurant business, Fat Shack, using $5,000 he won playing online poker during college. After graduating, he realized he couldn't afford the massive construction costs for a traditional storefront, so he got creative. He essentially borrowed a local bagel shop at night, operating his late-night food business after the owner closed for the day. He was literally storing his inventory in freezers in his garage and hauling it to the shop every evening. This scrappy beginning allowed him to prove the concept without taking on massive debt, and it didn't take long for the phone to start ringing off the hook with hungry students.
The business really hit the stratosphere after Armenti appeared on Shark Tank and secured a deal with Mark Cuban. Today, Fat Shack is a $20 million empire with over 30 locations across the country. What is impressive is how they maintained a culture of internal growth. Many of their first franchise owners were former delivery drivers or college friends who saw the potential early on. Moving the headquarters to Colorado was a turning point, as the large student population there provided the perfect demographic for their late-night menu. It is a testament to the idea that you don't always need a massive bank loan to start something big, if you are willing to work through the night and find unconventional ways to scale.
Moving to a landmark verdict. In a historic legal decision, a Los Angeles jury has found Meta, and YouTube liable for deliberately designing addictive products that harmed a young user. This is the first lawsuit of its kind to go to trial, and the jury awarded $6 million in damages to the plaintiff, a 20-year-old woman known as KGM. She testified that she became addicted to YouTube at age 6 and Instagram at 9, leading to severe depression, body dysmorphic disorder, and self-harm. The jury's verdict focused on the company's negligence and their failure to provide adequate warnings about the potential dangers of their platforms. Meta was ordered to pay 70% of the damages, with YouTube responsible for the remaining 30% after 9 days of deliberation.
The arguments in this case were compared to the big tobacco trials of the 90s, focusing on how these features were engineered to keep children from putting down their phones. Lawyers argue that these platforms are like Trojan horses that look wonderful but eventually take over a child's life. This verdict could set a massive precedent for thousands of other families who have filed similar claims against tech giants. While the companies have long defended their safety measures, this jury clearly felt that the evidence of intentional addictive design was compelling. It marks a significant shift in how the legal system views the responsibility of social media companies toward their youngest and most vulnerable users, potentially forcing a major redesign of how these apps function.
Next, American debt levels. A staggering 111 million Americans are now carrying credit card debt they cannot pay off each month. That is roughly half of all credit card holders in the country, a 17% increase from just 5 years ago. This financial strain was already reaching a breaking point before the recent spike in gas prices, which are now nearing $4 a gallon due to international conflicts. Experts are seeing a worrying trend where people are skipping meals or delaying medical care just to cover their basic monthly expenses. With the average credit card interest rate sitting at nearly 24%, the cost of carrying this debt is becoming unsustainable for many households, leading to a cycle of interest that is incredibly difficult to break.
The situation is so dire that a record number of people are dipping into their 401k retirement accounts to cover emergency expenses. This is a move that financial advisors generally warn against because of the long-term impact on retirement readiness and the immediate tax penalties. There has been some political talk about capping credit card interest rates at 10% to prevent consumers from being ripped off, but the banking industry has fought back hard against these proposals. They argue that such a cap would actually hurt consumers by limiting their access to credit. Regardless of the policy debate, the reality on the ground is that millions of families are navigating an unprecedented financial squeeze that shows no signs of letting up as inflation continues to bite.
Now, a banking blunder. National Savings and Investments, the UK's state-owned savings giant, is facing a major scandal after admitting to administrative errors that have left bereaved families without their rightful funds. Tens of thousands of customers are affected, and the total compensation could reach £400 million. NS&I is best known for its premium bonds and has been a trusted institution since the mid-19th century, but this blunder has seriously dented that reputation. The issue seems to stem from the bank simply losing track of customer accounts during a period of modernization. For families already dealing with the loss of a loved one, the added stress of fighting for missing savings has been a significant burden, prompting a formal apology from the institution and government oversight.
The Treasury is now working with NS&I to determine the full scale of the payouts, and the Pensions Minister is expected to address Parliament regarding the failure. Some experts point to a £3 billion modernization program that is years behind schedule as the likely culprit for these technical and service failures. While there is no evidence of anything sinister, the comparison to the post office IT scandal is inevitable in the public's mind. With 24 million savers, any lapse in trust for NS&I is a major concern for the government. The Chancellor will likely have some very difficult questions for the bank's leadership, as taxpayers may ultimately be on the hook for the compensation costs resulting from these staggering administrative failures over the years.
Next, military production updates. The Department of Defense is making a massive push to ramp up the production of critical weapons systems, signing new deals with major defense contractors like Lockheed Martin and Raytheon. This move comes after heavy usage of interceptors in recent conflicts, particularly the defense of Israel against Iranian missile attacks. The Pentagon is specifically looking to quadruple the production of Seekers for the THAAD missile defense system. THAAD is a sophisticated asset designed to intercept ballistic missiles during their final flight phase, and it has become a cornerstone of U.S. strategy in both the Middle East and the Pacific. The goal is to increase interceptor production from less than 100 per year to over 400 annually within the next 7 years, to replenish depleted stockpiles.
This surge in production reflects a growing concern among military planners about the sustainability of current stockpiles in a major prolonged conflict. During a recent 12-day fight, the U.S. expended between 100 and 150 interceptors, highlighting how quickly these expensive assets can be used up. Each THAAD interceptor costs about $12.7 million, so the financial scale of this ramp-up is enormous. Beyond THAAD, the military is also boosting production for SM-6 interceptors and other key missiles. These systems are not just for current conflicts, they are seen as vital deterrents for potential future showdowns. The challenge now is for the defense industrial base to meet these ambitious new targets after years of operating at much lower production levels.
Now, a personal story. Karina Plepel's story is a sobering look at the current tech job market. After 13 years at Microsoft, where she rose from a sales rep to a senior hub manager overseeing 50 employees, she was laid off in July 2023. Despite her extensive experience in leadership roles, she has now been looking for work for nearly 3 years. Her final years at the company were a high-anxiety roller coaster of shifting roles and constant layoff cycles. When her time finally came, she went into what she calls leader crisis mode, focusing on helping her team process the news even as she faced her own uncertain future. It is a stark reminder that even high-level experience at a major tech giant doesn't guarantee a quick transition.
The financial and mental toll of long-term unemployment is significant, yet Plepel maintains a remarkably resilient outlook, believing that everything happens for a reason. She described the layoff process as feeling sterile and tried to inject some humanity into it for her colleagues. Her experience reflects a broader trend in the tech industry where massive turnover and the shift away from retail or specific divisions like Xbox have left many talented professionals in a difficult position. For someone who had survived so many previous rounds of cuts, the finality of the 2023 layoff was a shock. Her journey highlights the challenges of navigating a job market that has become increasingly competitive and unpredictable, even for those with impressive resumes from world-class companies.
Next, shifting U.S. populations. New data from the Census Bureau shows that the South continues to dominate U.S. population growth, with almost all of the 15 fastest-growing metro areas located in that region. Ocala, Florida, and Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, led the pack, driven largely by domestic migration as people move from other parts of the country. However, the overall pace of growth has cooled compared to previous years. This slowdown is attributed to a significant decline in international migration. Interestingly, while 21 of Florida's 22 metros grew, the Miami area actually saw a slight population loss. This shift suggests that while the South remains a magnet for new residents, the explosive growth we saw during the pandemic era might be starting to reach a more moderate level.
The areas seeing the steepest declines in growth rates are mostly along the border, including cities like Laredo, Texas, and Yuma, Arizona. This slowing population growth has real-world economic implications, particularly for the job market. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell recently noted that as growth slows, fewer new jobs are needed to keep unemployment steady. This could lead to a new normal where headline job growth numbers look lower than what we are used to seeing. It is a complex picture where some cities are still booming while others are adjusting to a much slower pace of expansion. Understanding these demographic shifts is crucial for businesses and policymakers as they plan for infrastructure and labor needs in the coming decade.
Finally, Amazon's logistics expansion. Amazon is testing a new feature that could fundamentally change how we shop on the independent web. They are piloting a program that allows external websites to offer Prime shipping benefits without requiring the customer to log into an Amazon account. This is a major shift from their previous Buy with Prime initiative, which required that extra login step. By removing this friction, Amazon is making it easier for direct-to-consumer brands to use their massive fulfillment network while still maintaining control over their own checkout process and customer data. It is a strategic move to embed Amazon's logistics infrastructure across the entire internet, ensuring they get a piece of the transaction even when the sale doesn't happen on the Amazon marketplace itself.
This pilot program is a direct challenge to companies like Shopify, which provide the tools for many independent online stores. If Amazon can offer the gold standard of Prime shipping directly within a merchant's own site, it becomes a very compelling proposition for small and medium-sized businesses. Amazon validates the Prime membership in the background, so the user experience remains seamless. For Amazon, this is about expanding their reach as a logistics provider, turning their delivery network into a service that powers the broader e-commerce ecosystem. While it is currently only being tested with a small group of merchants, the potential for a wider rollout could redefine the competitive landscape for online retail and shipping expectations for consumers everywhere.
That wraps up our briefing for today. Thank you for joining us for this morning's update.
We will be back tomorrow with more insights. Have a productive day ahead.